The afternoon sun, a molten gold, dripped through the leaves of the mango tree, dappling the small, dusty yard with shifting patterns of light and shade. 7-year-old Oho, all knees and elbows, sat cross-legged on a worn mat, meticulously polishing a smooth, dark stone he'd found by the river. His brow was furrowed in concentration, his tongue peeking slightly from the corner of his mouth, a sure sign of deep focus. From inside their modest sun-baked home, the rhythmic thud of a pestle against a mortar announced Mama Ojo's presence, her voice, rich and melodious, like the evening breeze, carried through the open doorway. Oho jumped, startled, the stone almost slipping from his grasp. "Almost, Mama," he called back. Scrambling to his feet, he quickly gathered the few scattered pebbles and twigs he'd been playing with, sweeping them into a neat pile. Chores always came before play, a rule Mama Oho enforced with a gentle but firm hand. Mama Oho emerged a moment later, wiping her hands on her wrapper. Her smile, when it came, was like the sun itself, warm in "Good boy," she said, her eyes twinkling as she noticed the polished stone in his hand. "Another treasure." Oho nodded, proudly extending the stone. "It's special, Mama. It shines like your cooking pot." Mama Oho chuckled, a deep, rumbling sound that always made Oho feel safe. "It certainly does, my little explorer. Now, come help me with the yams." Life for Oho and Mama Oho in their small village was simple, woven with the threads of routine, hard work, and an abundance of love. Mama Oho was a force of nature, resilient, resourceful, and tirelessly devoted to her only son. She sold vegetables in the market, her laughter echoing through the stalls, and her hands were never idle. She taught Oho to count with cowries, to identify different birds by their calls, and to always be kind. One evening, as dusk painted the sky in hues of purple and orange, Oho found Mama Oho sitting quietly outside, her gaze fixed on the distant hills. He rarely saw her so still. "Mama, are you sad?" he asked, his small hand instinctively reaching for hers. Mama Oho sighed, a soft whisper in the growing twilight. "No, my son. Just thinking about how much you've grown, and how quickly time passes." She squeezed his hand. "Life brings many seasons, Oho. Some are bountiful, and some are lean. But no matter what, we face them together, with strong hearts." A few weeks later, a harsh, dry spell settled over the land. The sun beat down relentlessly, baking the earth into a cracked mosaic. The crops withered, and the river, usually a lively companion, dwindled to a sluggish fear. A quiet, unwelcome guest began to creep into the village. Mama Ojo's laughter grew less frequent, replaced by a quiet determination. She stretched their meager provisions, making sure Oho always had enough to eat, even if it meant her own stomach rumble. One morning, Oho woke to find her meticulously mending their only good market basket, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Mama, are we hungry?" he asked, his voice small. Mama Oho looked up, her eyes gentle despite the weariness etched around them. "We are. Being careful, Oho, but we will be fine. We always find a way." That afternoon, Mama Oho prepared their last small pot of stew. She served Oho a generous portion, her own plate almost empty. As he ate, he noticed her gaze drifting towards the small, smooth stone he had polished so many weeks ago, now sitting on a shelf. Later, as the stars began to prick the velvet sky, Mama Oho called him. "Oho," she began, her voice softer than usual. "Do you remember what I told you about seasons?" He nodded. "Some are bountiful, some are lean." "Exactly," she said, "and in lean times, we must be clever. We must use what we have, and sometimes what we have is not always what we think." She picked up the polished stone, turning it over in her palm. "This stone, my son, is a reminder of your curiosity, your patience, and your keen eye for beauty, but sometimes beauty can also bring us strength in other ways." The next morning, Mama Oho, with Oho walking dutifully beside her, took the polished stone to the neighboring village, a place they rarely visited. Oho watched, bewildered, as Mama Oho spoke to an elder, her voice calm and respectful, gesturing to the stone. He didn't understand all the words, but he saw the elder's eyes widen, then a slow nod. They returned home with a small sack of grains and a handful of dried fish, enough to last them for days. Oho looked at Mama Oho, His eyes full of questions, Mama Ohu smiled, a true, radiant smile that reached her eye. The elder, she explained, had a grandchild who was very ill and had lost their joy.
They were looking for something unique, something beautiful, to lift their spirits. Your stone, Oho, was exactly what they needed.
It reminded them of the simple wonders of the earth. Oho stared at her, then at the sack of food. So, my stone helped us. It did. My son, Mama Oho said, pulling him close. It showed us that even in the toughest times, there is value in what we cherish. And there is always a way to find hope, especially when we work together and use our hearts and our minds. As the rains eventually returned and the village slowly bloomed back to life, Oho never forgot the lesson of the polished stone. He continued to collect treasures, but now each one carried a deeper meaning. And with every passing season, he watched his mother, Mamo, with a profound understanding that her love, her resilience, and her quiet wisdom were the greatest treasures of all.